Hi, it's Jo and Steve from Freshagenda, and this week, Steve, we're giving you some of the highlights from our latest Global Dairy Directions Trade Insights report. And the big picture is really one about increasing trade over the last quarter, and that's really been led by very low price skim milk powder, hasn't it, Steve?
That's where the big skim is the highlight of trade activity because of those low prices, which in April trade data kept falling. So that's driven a whole lot of pipeline filling, we reckon, which may mean problems later as things slow.
Yeah, that's right. So who's supplying in terms of global trade at the moment? It's an interesting picture because we've got obviously very different supply drivers for the different product groups.
Yeah, we do. I suppose we've seen year-on-year growth has been strongest out of Europe, out of powder in Europe. We've seen butterfats catch back up because they were low at very high prices, but some of those requirements have been filled. And again, we've seen a flurry in whole milk powder after a quiet period late last year. So
yeah, with low availability, a bit more activity in whole milk powder this year. Cheese export, the US is doing a lot of the shipping there, but that's an interesting situation for them that we'll come up to. So in terms of who's buying, it's really Middle East, North Africa that's leading the charge in terms of demand for the last 3 months.
Yeah, the league table has for several months had them at top. Again, that's a lot of filling, a lot of capacity taken up because they were out of the market or buying at a lot lower rates. Oil prices are better, a bit more capacity, and prices are attractive. That's
right. And I guess the other point in that league table is that China has slowed a little bit in the last 3 months in terms of their buying. The next point that's interesting given where trade's been is the escalating Chinese-US trade war that we're reading a lot about in the media. It's an interesting situation facing US exporters given that cheese has actually made some inroads into the Chinese market, but more importantly the whey story.
The whey story is the big one. China takes, the US has about half of the Chinese import market. And that is now under a big cloud, so that will affect prices quickly. Nothing great at this stage, but we'll see that play out. Will Europeans fill that gap? That's going to be interesting to watch as that develops.
Absolutely, but very frustrating for US cheese exporters who had been making those inroads. And we've just got a little South Korea chart in there just to say, given the developments last week in North Korea, being a little bit surprised about the end of military exercises. Relations with South Korea aren't at an all-time high either, but that'll be one to watch for US cheese.
And look, just wrapping up, Jo, something we'll do each week now is a chart of the week from our weekly newsletter. So what have you chosen this week?
Well, this week, Steve, it relates very closely to what we've just been talking about in terms of these escalating trade wars. And it's the daily cheese barrel price from in the US. And we've just seen, I suppose, the news sinking in about how these trade tit-for-tat tariff increases are affecting sentiment in the US market. And cheese has really slid over the last few days.
Yeah, this is probably about milk moving away from mozzarella. People fearing that the barrel supply will increase in the short term, more than capacity for the market to handle in that time period. So it's crashed.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's a wrap. Well, it's goodbye from her and goodbye from me.